In this video, I will show you how to write the equation of a circle, and I will also show you how to convert the equation of a circle from general form, which doesn't have any parentheses in it, to standard form, which is like this, that has the parentheses in it. Okay, so the model for the equation of a circle works like this. If we have x minus h, whoops, that's not an h. We have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared, okay, where the center is h comma k. So the center is just the opposite of these. And the radius, of course, is r. So it'll be the square root of whatever's there. Anyway, for this particular problem, for problem number 1, we can easily tell that the center is right there, where I just put that dot. So the center is the point 3 comma negative 1. Okay, now looking at how far the center is from the edge of the circle, I can tell that the radius is 2. So using those two pieces of information, the equation is going to be x minus 3 squared, all right, because the opposite of the 3, and then y plus 1 squared, it's got to be the opposite of that negative 1, is equal to the radius squared. So I'm going to put a 4 right here.
Why do you use h and k?
Tradition. Yeah, in like every textbook I've ever seen, they always use h and k. I'm not sure why they picked those variables, but that's just a tradition. All right, looking at problem number 2. Find the equation of this one. Well, the center is right here where I just put that dot. So the center, I can see, is the point 3 comma 0. The radius, all right, which is just the distance out to the edge of the circle. So the radius is 3. So putting those two pieces of information together, I have x minus 3 squared, it's the opposite of that one. Because of the 0, I know it's just going to be y squared. So y minus 0 is just y. So I'm just going to put y squared is equal to the radius squared. So that's going to be 9. Okay. Now this time we're going the other way. So we're given the equation. So looking at the equation, I can tell that the center is negative 2 comma 1. It's the opposite of this and the opposite of this. The radius is 3. All right, it's the square root of 9. So since the center is negative 2 comma 1, that means the center is right here. Since the radius is 3, that means if I go up 3, right 3, left 3, and down 3, I'm going to be on the circle every time. So now I can go ahead and draw the circle through those points. Okay, looking at problem number 4. All right, I can tell that the center is going to be 1 comma 0, opposite of the negative 1, so I put positive 1. And because it's y squared, there's no number there. That means it's a 0. Now the radius. All right, 20 is the radius squared. So the radius is going to be the square root of 20. For graphing purposes, I'm going to need an approximate value. Can anybody give me a number, like an approximate value for the square root of 20?
50.
Yeah, give me a decimal.
4.47.
Okay, 4.47, so we'll go 4.5. All right, so the center is 1, 0. All right, so I'm going to go up 4.5 and down 4.5 and right 4.5 and left 4.5. So that's number 4. Now looking at number 5. A circle has a diameter with endpoints blam and blam. So don't forget what diameter means. If this is a circle, then this red line that I'm drawing will be the diameter if it goes right through the center. Okay, so they are giving me these endpoints. So 2, 3 is one endpoint of a diameter, and 2, -5, right, which is right there. So those are the endpoints of the diameter. So that means the midpoint, the center of the circle, is going to be the midpoint of this segment. So let's see, is that here at -1? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this blue dot I just put, that's going to be the center of the circle. So if I were to do sort of a rough sketch of what the circle would look like, it's like something roughly like this. Okay, but focus your eyes on the diameter, which is right here. Okay, keep your eyes focused on that. So the center is going to be 2, -1. The radius, I can just count the squares from the center out to one of those endpoints. The radius is 4. Okay, so that's going to give me the equation x -2 squared, and then y + 1 squared, all right, it's the opposite of both of those, is equal to 16. This is the radius squared, so I don't just put 4, I put 16. So that's going to be my equation. Okay, so completing the square. This 5 is in my way. So I'm going to move that 5 to the other side of the equation. All right, I'm going to move it over. Okay, so I'm going to start off by subtracting 5 from both sides. That's going to leave me with x squared plus 12x. Leave a space right here. Leave a gap. And that's going to equal 3. Now, I can take this and rewrite it as a binomial squared. What goes inside of this parentheses? What goes inside of here? Well, don't change the sign. Just regular 6. So we'll just have x plus 6 in there. And yes, that comes from just doing half of that 12. So that's going to be 6. Now, looking at that 6, square that. That tells me what goes in the blank to complete the square. So if I square that 6, I get 36. And that number is always positive. A common mistake is forgetting to add 36 to the other side. So please make sure you add 36 on both sides when you complete the square. So that's why I'm going to have 39 on the right-hand side. Okay, so that's it. So if I fill it in here, I've got x plus 6 squared is equal to 39. All right, so that's how you do number 6. Yes. For problem number 7, we need to convert this from general form to standard form. So I have no parentheses here, so I need to rewrite this in that form that has all the parentheses in it. All right, I'm going to have to zoom in. So the first thing I need to do is make sure that I rewrite it so that the terms that have x in them are right next to each other. So these two terms need to be side by side, and these two terms need to be side by side. The constant term, that negative 30, it just needs to go to the other side. I'm going to move it away. Okay, I'm going to do that by adding 30 to both sides of the equation. So when I rewrite this, I'm going to have, let's see, this is problem number 7. Let me just leave this here. So when I rewrite this, I'm going to have x squared plus 14x. Okay, and Brandon, so right now, so I've got my squared term and I've got my x term. That's where the blank goes, where the constant term goes. And I'm going to do the same thing with the y's. So I'm going to have my plus y squared. So there's my squared term, and then minus 4y. There's my y term. That's when the blank comes. Okay. Now I moved that 30 over to the other side, so I'll have equals 30 like that. Okay, so I have this. This is where the parentheses will come in. So I will write this as something squared plus something squared is equal to. Okay, inside of the first parentheses, it's going to be x plus 7, because it's just going to be half of the 14. Inside of the second parentheses, it'll be y minus 2. It's half of the negative 4. Now, as far as completing the square, filling in that blank, I'm going to square these numbers in the parentheses. So looking at that 7, I'm going to square that, so I'm going to do plus 49. Please don't forget to add it to the other side as well. Looking at that negative 2, I'm going to square that, and I'm going to get 4. Notice that it's always positive. Even though it's a negative 2, it's still going to be a positive 4. And I need to put it on both sides. So adding all these numbers together, 30 plus 49 plus 4, what is that? 83. So this is all going to equal 83. Whoa, that's a thick ink. All right, so I guess I'm supposed to write all that down here. So standard form, I had x plus 7 squared plus, what was it, y minus 2 squared, I think, is equal to 83. So the center, as we've already practiced, will be negative 7, comma, positive 2. It's just the opposite of each of these. Now, the radius is going to be the square root of this number, the square root of 83. But they said give me 1 decimal place. So did anybody already do it?
Yeah, 9.1.
Okay, so 9.1. 9.1. Okay, so that was number 7. All right, number 8 has 1 extra step. Otherwise, it's basically the same thing. So this is number 8. The 5s in the front of the x squared and y squared. That's no good. I'm not liking that. So I'm going to go ahead and divide everything by 5, like bland, 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 bland. Okay, so that will give me x squared plus y squared plus 20 is equal to 21. Okay, divide everything by 5 first. Now I'm going to do that thing where I write terms that have the same variable side by side. Well, you know, it's already that way. I don't have to rearrange anything. The y's are already next to each other. On the last problem, I had to complete the square twice. Am I going to have to complete the square twice on this problem? No. I'm only going to complete the square for the y's. because it's the only one where I have a y squared and a y. So that kind of ties in with your question, Brandon, about the blank. And I was telling you, once you have the y squared, and then the y term, and then you have a blank, if all you have is an x squared, and you don't have an x term, then there will be no blank. There will be no parentheses. You just leave it alone. Okay? So, I should have left a space for the y's. I'm just going to rewrite it. So I've got x squared, and then I've got y squared plus 20y, need a space, is equal to 21. All right, the x squared is just going to come down unchanged. But for the y's, I'm going to complete the square and turn it into a binomial squared. Inside the parentheses should be y plus 10, because it's got to be half of that. I take the 10 and I square it, and that's what I know to put inside of the empty space. That's how I complete the square. So that's why this will be 100, okay, because 10 squared. And please don't forget to put it on both sides. So that's going to equal 121. So that is my standard form equation, which they want me to write down here. So here I go, x squared plus y plus 10 squared is equal to 121. That tells me that the center is going to be 0, comma, negative 10. The x squared, there's no number there. That's how I know it's a 0. And the opposite of 10 is negative 10. The radius is going to be 11. All right, this is a perfect square, so the square root of 121 turns out to be 11. Okay, so that was it for number 8. Moving on to something else. I better stop the video now. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.